You want to never be stuck in small talk again? Ask these, and you'll light a real spark. I'm Mike. This is Plant the Spark, and today I'm dropping the first date formula, baby. 7 questions that build instant chemistry using proven psychological moves. Wait until the end. I'll give you the practical scripts and the one playful closing question that leaves them smiling and wanting more. Plant the spark. Grow the connection. All right, a quick science moment here. And don't tune out. It's good stuff, I swear. Relationships don't start with facts, they start with feeling seen. 2 decades of social psych research show that escalating reciprocal self disclosure builds intimacy fast. And we're talking real fast. It's the backbone of that famous 36 question study that actually created feelings of closeness in strangers. In short, asking the right questions in the right order can shortcut superficial chat into genuine connection. Also, curiosity isn't just quaint. Being genuinely curious about someone, it predicts higher attraction and closeness during conversations. So, your job on a first date, be the guy who's curious without interrogating. Let curiosity scaffold that conversation forward. Right? I mean, look, individual results may vary. Not every question will land the same way for every person, but there are certain questions that you should be asking, my friends. You should be asking. I like to call this next section the frame, right? Curiosity scaffolding and, this thing called the vulnerability ladder. All right. So here's the formula before the 7 questions. I want you to think curiosity scaffolding, right? Plus that vulnerability ladder. So, what is curiosity scaffolding? You want to start with easy, curious questions that invite stories, then climb, right? You don't start with, what's your darkest secret? Unless you're trying to clear the room. The vulnerability ladder, it's reciprocal self disclosure that escalates. You share a little bit, they share a little, you go a bit deeper, they match. This pattern is literally how closeness forms in interactions, my friends. And it's just not with dates, it's with just about anyone, right? It's just that slow scaffolding. You want to keep that energy warm, keep the tone teasing, throw in a confident smile, baby. You're not an interviewer. You're a co-conspirator building a story together. And let's be honest, people love to be a part of a story. They like those shared secrets. They like those hidden desires, that little narrative that only the two of you kind of know about, those inside jokes, right? You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Come on. Okay. So what are those 7 questions? Now, I'm going to deliver each question. I'm going to give a short rationale. I'm going to give one example interaction, basically a little micro script, right? And a tiny science note when it's relevant, but I'm going to keep it punchy, all right? So, question number 1. What's a small, stupid habit that you secretly love? Now, the rationale is that it's lightweight vulnerability, right? It signals that authenticity. It invites a story that's charming, not heavy, right? So here's the script, right? What's a tiny habit you have that would embarrass a teenaged you? Pause, smile, offer yours, right? I still alphabetize my cereal. Don't at me. Why it works. Look, people reveal quirks when the cost of sharing is low. Quirks are memorable and they make you feel human. All right, on to question number 2, baby. What was your I'll never forget this moment from the last year? Now, what's the rationale? It opens up narrative sharing and emotional salience, right? Here's the script. Like last year, I had a wild sunrise that ruined me for all other mornings. You? Now, why does something like this work? Memory retrieval engages emotion and makes stories stick. I mean, our brains are built for storytelling, my guys. Come on. Emotion equals connection. You know what I'm talking about. All right. Question number 3. What do you do when you have one day to feel alive? Now, the rationale is that, it shows values and priorities and they kind of flash quickly, right? So a script would be something like, if you had 24 hours to do anything, no money problem, what are you doing? It's playful, right? And then you could ask something like, more importantly, am I invited? Now, why it works. This reveals passions and whether your lifestyles sync. And that's gotta be a must in a relationship, right? This is your first date. All right, question 4. What's something you used to be obsessed with that sounds really weird now? Now, the rationale is that you're basically asking for a little bit more low risk vulnerability, right? It's a move that invites humor, a little nostalgia, and we all kind of like to go back and think back to the past, right? All right, so here's the script. I used to record skateboard fails in slow mo and analyze them like they were art. You pause, you laugh, and then you say something like, your turn. Now, this works because nostalgia plus amusement releases positive effect and it builds that rapport that you're going for, man. Now, question number 5, and this is a really good one. If you could be famous for one thing, what would it be? Now, why women like this one, and guys too, but women really like this one because a lot of the time women are being overlooked for their aspirations, right? Their dreams, right? They're expected to just sort of glom on to whatever the guy's doing. This is the modern world, baby. We're not doing that junk anymore, right? And what this does is it reveals aspiration, identity, and what people want to see. So, a script, you could say something like, I don't know, famous chef or famous comedian. I'd like to be that dude who owns the coolest playlists at parties. Why it works. Status and values. And it's a gateway to playful banter about chips on their shoulders, right? Question number 6. What's a belief you had that changed? Now, what's the rationale behind something like this? It shows growth, my guys. It tests humility, openness, right? So a script you could use is something like, I used to think small talk was a waste. Turns out it's treasure if you're mine, right? People who can explain personal change signal self-awareness. That's an attractive trait. Self-awareness, being authentic, being you in those crucial, intimate moments. All right, question number 7. This is kind of like your playful finishing question, right? If we're stuck on a deserted island, who do you want on team you? The practical leader, the chef, or the rule breaker, baby? The rationale here is that it's playful. It reveals a little bit about their identity. It invites them to role play. Not that kind of role play, but it ends with a small shared joke, right? This is your closer. It creates a private little moment between you and your crush. It's perfect. So here's a script. I call dibs on rules breaker, right? Somebody has to sneak in the s'mores. You lean in, you smile. It's light, it's a bit flirty, and it leaves space for physical proximity or like a little playful tease, right? Now, self-disclosure and reciprocal responsiveness, they reliably increase felt intimacy interactions, right? And this is the core of the intimacy process. So while these lines are fun, they're a little playful, they're jokey, right? They're all about inviting curiosity. Here's how to deliver so they light up. Number 1, it's all about the timing. Listen, we don't want rapid fire here. Ask one question. Listen like you mean it, my dudes. A good rule. Let them talk for about, I don't know, 60 to 70% of the time. Women love to talk about themselves. They love to talk about themselves when someone is listening and hearing them. So be that emotional sounding board, be that playful energizer, be someone that you can flirt, you can tease, you can get serious if that's what the moment calls for. Number two, dudes, the tone. Keep it warm, slightly teasing, low volume confidence. Am I right? Think you're interesting, not needy. There's also the micro moves, right? You can mirror their posture subtly, longer eye contact on the punchline, right? Nod to show you're tracking, you're listening to their answer, right? You're smiling, you're giving these nonverbal cues that really amplifies trust according to research, right? Now, physiological arousal can intensify attraction. Shared thrills, mild surprise in a conversation can make a date feel more electric. This is the same mechanism behind the classic bridge study, right? Where arousal was misattributed to attraction. What they did is they had these guys walk across this bridge, right? And it was either a scary, high up, small bridge or like a lot, like a wide bridge. And then when they got to the end, they had to rate women on attractiveness. And what they found is that the people who had gone across the really short, tiny bridge, they had basically rated these women at the end of a bridge, right, as more attractive than the guys that went across this sort of large, sort of wide bridge, right? It was all manufactured electricity. It wasn't real. They were scared to death. Their heart was already going. Of course, they found those women attractive or more attractive. All right. Imagine this. You and her on a bench after dinner, right? You ask question two. What was your I'll never forget this moment this year? She talks about a sunrise she saw on a beach. You respond, wow, that sounds cinematic. I'm low key jealous. When's our first sunrise? She laughs, softens, mentions a place, and boom, you just turn the story into a plan without sounding needy. That's the pure power of curiosity scaffolding. Now, what are some practical scripts? I teased on these earlier, right? I promised these in the beginning of the episode, and here's the fast pack, right? Use these exact lines. An opener, right? Hey, what's the most random thing that made you laugh last month? Mid-date pivot. If you had 24 hours to feel alive, what would you actually do? Pause. Then say, we should pencil that in, hypothetically. And finally, the closer, baby. Playfully. If we're stuck on a deserted island, who do you want on your team? Smile, lean in slightly, like, supposed to be you. Now memorize this pattern. An easy opener, curiosity follow, one deeper pivot, and a playful closer. Use them like seasoning, right? Just a little salt, baby. Not a script. You want to get to where you're good at this, right? It's natural. You do it so much it becomes natural, right? If you've got to fake it, then fake it till you make it. All right. That's your first date formula. Curiosity scaffolding plus the vulnerable ladder plus 7 questions. Use them. Practice them and stop apologizing for being interested. If you want, drop a comment with your favorite question from tonight's episode. I'll pick the best one and coach it live next week. If this helped, hit subscribe, smash that like it's your date night playlist, and share this with your buddy who still asks, so what do you do as a conversation strategy? And hey, if you ever end a date with, we should do this again, but you want to close with a little more, try this line. Same time next week, I'll bring the sunrise. Give a big, weighty wink. See ya.